So welcome. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands across Australia from which we are all joining today. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples with us here today. So we recognise their enduring connection to country, culture and community, and their vital role in learning and knowledge sharing. A few housekeeping rules. So thank you for those who've kept their microphones on mute. So unless you're speaking, we ask for that just to avoid any background noise. But we do say, please feel free to share any reflections, comments in the chat. So you're welcome to put what land you're joining us in from today, and any comments and reflections as we go through the speakers today. So today's session's been recorded. I've already hit record, and slides and resources will all be shared afterwards. If you're having any technical issues, please pop some comments in the chat and we'll try to address them. So to open our program, I'd now like to hand over to Leonie Wheeler, who will introduce our MC. Thanks, Leonie.
Thank you, Sharon. Welcome everyone to today's seminar. My name is Leonie Wheeler, the Honorary CEO of the Australian Learning Communities Network, which is the national peak body for learning cities and communities. Founded in 2001, the ALCN exists to support sustainable and inclusive communities through lifelong learning. UNESCO says lifelong learning is a cornerstone of sustainable development, empowering citizens through inclusive education and learning opportunities. And we have to think about that in practical terms. And it's our practitioners on the ground, people like you're going to hear from today, who do the translation of these international frameworks that UNESCO puts out on learning cities into practical tools and strategies for the Australian context, including cities, towns, neighbourhoods, and regional and rural regions. Revitalising learning in communities and families is a key pillar of the UNESCO Learning City, and we have two excellent case studies today. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our MC for today, Professor Bruce Wilson, Director of the European Centre for Excellence at RMIT. Now, I've known Bruce for many years in various roles, but it's his roles working with him on projects such as the Hume Global Learning Village and his work in rural and regional communities in Victoria and elsewhere, and his work for the Pascal International Observatory, that I've seen firsthand how Bruce really does walk the talk and is a leading voice in lifelong learning. So Bruce, over to you now, please.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Leonie, for those very kind words, and to Leonie and to Sharon for all the work that you do in supporting the ALCN. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm at RMIT today on the land of the Woiwurrung and the Bunurong language groups, the unceded land of the Woiwurrung and Bunurong language groups, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging as traditional custodians of this land, and commit to working still to pursue the voice and reconciliation with all traditional custodians in our part of the world. It's a privilege to be able to join you today and to chair this session. I think Leonie has said some very important words about lifelong learning, but it's about understanding that learning occurs in many different kinds of environments and contexts. We're not talking about credentials. We're not talking about schools or formal classes. We're talking about everyday life and about the kinds of opportunities in everyday life for developing our capability, not just capacity around literacy, but what literacy then means for our interactions with family, with community, and our capacity to engage with challenges in life. As Leonie has said, we have two terrific stories to share with you today, and I'd like to begin by introducing Dr. Claire Galea as the first keynote speaker. Claire is Head of Research at United Way, Australia. She is a biostatistician who completed a PhD at Macquarie University, and her she's committed, she's passionate about how statistics, data, can reveal stories to us. Claire co-authored a groundbreaking study on Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in Tamworth, and she'll share some key findings from this project. Over to you, Claire, to tell your story to us.
Thank you, Bruce, for that introduction. I'll just get my slides working. Do we know if Kay's in the room at all, please? Has she come in? Okay, can everybody see my slides? Can you just thumbs up if that's coming up okay for everybody? Excellent, thank you. So thank you for that introduction, Bruce. That was really kind of you. My name is Dr. Claire Galea. I'm Head of Research at United Way Australia. And thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm going to present to you part one of my PhD, the findings from Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in Tamworth, Australia. About 14 months ago, this research, or the work that Tamworth's doing, got the attention of the World Literacy Foundation. And that gave us the incredible invitation to present at the World Literacy Summit in Oxford in April this year, so about 5 months ago. It was an incredible opportunity to be at the World Literacy Summit to present amazing Australian work, to get it up onto the global voice. Now, presenting at the World Literacy Summit is not something I ever thought I would see myself doing as a statistician. So thank you, Bruce. Full confession, I'm a data person. Previously in my career, so like 5 years ago, I was working at Melanoma Institute, and I would spend not hours, days on thousands and thousands of lines of code trying to statistically come up with a way to show the best combination of drugs for skin cancer treatment. So that's what I was doing. Then the CEO of United Way Australia, where I now work, asked me if I would be interested in doing a PhD as a statistician to look into the impact of the Imagination Library, firstly in Tamworth and then around the world, because you can't be a Dolly Parton fan and not dream big. So now we have a fantastic research to show you today. I'll take you through the findings from Tamworth, and we have a snippet of findings from the world's largest data set on shared book reading, which we collected with Dolly Wood Foundation and in partnership with Macquarie University. So just a little bit about my passion behind this. And you'll see that quote at the bottom, immunise kids against illiteracy, break out a book in infancy. What I'm going to take you through today, the story of Tamworth, is to show the power of giving a book a birth model, starting by giving those books the day the children's born or within 24 hours. We know the importance of reading. The US Department of Education has said reading is the single most important determinant of success in life. It introduces people to words, phrases, sentences, concepts that are way more sophisticated than in everyday life and in television programs. So how do we introduce kids to this reading? By shared book reading. And one of the ways that we've started, or one of the book gifting programs, is Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. She founded this program in Tennessee in 1995. Some of you may not be aware, her father was illiterate, and he wanted her to do something with her fame, and so she founded this program. And it's started originally in Sevierville, a little county in Tennessee. Even Dolly didn't think it'd end up going right around the globe. So how does the Imagination Library work? There's no boundaries. No barriers to entry. Anybody can enter if it's offered. So, for example, in Tamworth, all children born in the entire local government area, which covers an incredible 10,000 square kilometres, is eligible to enter the program if they're born and they're aged between 0 to 5. So it's free for participants. The books get mailed directly home to the child, and they come directly addressed to that child. So no barriers for entry, and it's completely operates in the home. Those books just keep coming. They kept coming right through COVID, regular book a month for 5 years from birth to 5th birthday. So the child ends up with their own little library because they can collect them over the time, and they end up with 60 books. Each book will come with a tip sheet, and that tip sheet is put together by experts in Australia, and it provides information for caregivers to engage before, during and after shared book reading with the child. But the Imagination Library in Australia also works alongside with some fantastic wraparound services that we network with. So, for example, the Primary Health Network in Tamworth, for the first 12 months, each month they would put information in the books as well, along with the tip sheet. So that information might be about upcoming immunisation days, water safety, drowning information, those sorts of things. partnering with libraries, playgroups, community groups in the area to deliver the books. And I'm hoping Kay Delahunt is an incredible librarian from Tamworth, who without Kay and her team, none of this would have been possible. So I'm very grateful. Kay, would you like to explain how the Imagination Library got to Tamworth, please? She's here. Is Kay here?
Just messaged her, Claire.
Okay.
Just tried to contact her. I'm not sure she's been able to join. I think she's having issues, so I'll let you know as soon as she's joined us.
Okay.
From you. Hi, it's Ita from Tamworth. Kay is trying to log in, but no one's letting her in, so she can talk on my computer, I suppose. Do you want to? Yep. How about I put my camera on and you can sit here. She's just getting her notes and she won't be a sec. My office is only just next to her, so. And I'll let her sit here.
Thank you for that.
Sorry about that. Here she is.
Welcome, Kay.
Oh, thank you. Had a few technical difficulties getting in.
You're here now. Over to you.
Hey, could you please tell everyone how the Imagination Library got to Tamworth, please?
Oh, yes. Well, Jay and Mark O'Shea, who are music performers and songwriters, they had been in America and had used the Dolly Parton program over there and thought it was just fantastic. And when they were out in Australia, they approached the Mayor of Tamworth and the General Manager and had a discussion about starting the program in Tamworth as a whole of community model. And the Mayor thought it was a great idea. So that's how it started.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kay. So Tamworth, for those of you who don't know, it's about 5.5 hours north of Sydney, or northwest-ish of Sydney, with a population of just over 64,000 and many remote rural communities as well included in that vast 10,000 square kilometres. So the research that we had here, all the children, like I said, in Tamworth were invited to participate in the program, and that was from the 1st of January 2019. And we followed families for 3 years, and we looked at both quantitative and qualitative data, and we surveyed them at birth, 6 months, and then when the children were 3 years old. And we had 3 key outcomes. Now, this was our pilot study because, as I said, we took our research worldwide. So we looked at, firstly, the home literacy environment, the reading attitudes and interactions of both the child and caregiver, and the emerging literacy skills of the children. And just in that image there is one of our wonderful ambassadors for the program, Ashley Dallas, with her little daughter, Harriet. Ashley is another golden guitar country music singer and has been a big support with the program. What's been fantastic in Tamworth has been the incredible 98% uptake for the program, in the sense that how it works is the child health nurse will do the hearing test, the hearing assessment, and take the child back with the results and invite the caregiver to enrol into the program and give them a welcome book. So we're getting a touch point with those families at birth. And they get a welcome letter from the Mayor. They also get a library card, which you'll hear later how incredible that's been. And the caregiver will also receive information on community events around what's happening in the library with that first book. And Kay, could you explain for everybody, please, how the funding works in Tamworth for this program?
Right. So it's funded by Tamworth Regional Council and local businesses and also charities and organisations. And as well as that, the staff, we have ambassadors that go out and speak to community groups to obtain sponsorship. And yeah, that's how it goes. So it varies a little bit, but council has made that commitment to put the money aside to fill the gap between what is donated and what's needed.
And congratulations, Tamworth Council. It's been amazing. So what did we find? What we looked at, as I said, the home literacy environment is our first thing. Now, As I said, I was a statistician. I'm so used to having treatment and control groups, but that's not how we work in the shared book reading space. Withholding books from children just to study if a program works is against the mission of the Imagination Library. So we compared the data from Tamworth to large government data sets, including the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare and the Longitudinal Study of Australian Children. And what we found in Tamworth was that children were being read to more often for longer durations and had more books in the home than the average Australian child. Now, that is fundamental because we know that the Australian government released research conducted last year which showed that children who are not read to in the home are 6 times more likely to be developmentally vulnerable in areas like language and cognitive. 6 times, that's huge. So to know that by that book a month program, these children were being read to from birth more often just gives them such a better start. We had feedback from families because we gave caregivers the option to provide their own wording back to us. It took me completely out of my comfort zone as a statistician to analyse qualitative data, but I certainly learned a lesson, and this caught the attention of many people at the World Literacy Summit, the qualitative feedback we got. We found caregivers that the tip sheets that we put in them, although they found it helpful for their reading, and there's an example of one that I had to pick a Dog Loves Counting book. I love that book. But the tip sheets not only helped them engage during the reading, but it also gave that reminder. Oh, have I read to Harriet today? Or they'd stick the tip sheet up on the fridge. And no, just that prompt to remind them to read to the child. We also found that quite a lot of caregivers, including the O'Sheas, you heard about Mark and Jay O'Shea's story at the beginning, their little daughter Finn was first on the program, and then August, their next daughter, they didn't know that reading to babies was a thing. Multiple caregivers came back to us saying, oh, I thought the preschool would read to the child. They're too young to read to. So we could see that we were getting early regular reading routines established, and we found that caregivers who read daily at birth were still 5 times more likely to be reading daily at 3 years. So the regular reading routines were established by that book at birth followed right through to 3 years. That book culture of reading is just what we do came through. And Kay, I'd love to pass over to you for the impact of the program on the library. It's been incredible how much the library's helped the community.
Yes, well, when we first started this, we weren't sure what was going to happen to our loans and to how well the library would be used, because people would be having a book in their home and perhaps they may not want to come to the library as well. Because we were very proactive in with the library cards at the same time as enrolment, and also giving people lots of information on the programs that are run, we've had a huge amount of participation at the library, and we've had an increase in loans, which was quite different to what we expected.
Been amazing. As an example there of the picture in Tamworth of baby book time. So where the librarian will read the Imagination Library and other books, but models the reading for the caregivers in the room, and they can come along and watch her read that book of the month and help them. And there were cases where the librarian caregivers came up to her and said, oh, my mum couldn't read, or I didn't read very well at school. Can you help me? And the library's gone on to run adult literacy classes. They've got teacher trained people on the staff, speech therapists, incredible ways that the library has integrated into the community to help everybody around this book sharing. A book a month per child has had a community-wide impact out there. Okay, did you want to add anything else about the amazing library?
Just in the way that those adult literacy classes were done, because they'd have a baby book time or a toddler time, and directly after that there'd be activities and the children would be taken care of, and the adults could do their literacy work using those Dolly Parton Imagination Library books. And the other thing is that when children get those books in their home and then they come into the library and somebody's actually reading their book, a huge connection happens. So it's just such a lovely experience.
Thanks, Kay. Amazing work happening out there. One of the factors we really wanted to see, it's this idea of the book culture. We wanted to know if the children themselves were initiating the reading. And when the children were just 3 years, we found that 75% of those children asked to be read to daily. That means they were coming up to the caregiver saying book, or holding the book out, or going to where they'd normally read. Reading was just what they thought was normal. That's what we do. We want to read. So that was wonderful to see at just 3 years of age. And we also found that 70% of fathers were reading at least twice a week. Now, a lot of previous research has shown that less than half of fathers read to children. So for us to see that as high as 70% is fantastic. And we know that the way fathers read books is associated with children demonstrating key emerging literacy skills. But there's a beautiful story just there on the side where we had one caregiver say that, you know, my partner doesn't know what to do with the baby, but he can read a book. And his reading skills are getting better because he's reading more in that sense, and it gives him something to do that he can. So some beautiful stories seeing that the fathers coming through and reading. And we had this is a First Nations family in Tamworth, and if you have a look at I don't know my left and right, the older child on the right on my screen was reading the book to his youngest sibling. And this particular book that he was reading was about people from different cultures all over the world doing different activities. And there was a particular page with a person of colour with kind of like afro hair flying a plane. And he called out to his mum and said, "Mum, can kids like me fly a plane?" He's 9. He'd connected with that character. I got so much more out of that book. And the little sibling was just sitting there listening, reading, soaking it all in. That mum now, Jodie, has come on to be such a wonderful ambassador for the program because it's just reached to her whole family. It's not just the book a month, and that's what I'm trying to get across. It's impacting the whole community. As you know, Rotary come on board to fund the program. The guy who owns the car dealership funding money from every car he sells, as his grandchild's on the program, he sees the benefit. Across the cultures, the Imagination Library can get across all geographic, socioeconomic boundaries. But the emerging literacy skills is something that we're really interested to see in the research. We wanted to see, and we're looking at skills like their concepts about print. So if they're holding the book the right way, they can track the words left to right. Their receptive vocabulary and expressive, can they retell a story? So we found that the early regular reading routines were associated with children demonstrating these skills more by the age of 3. And to give you an example, because across all of Tamworth, the children all get the same book that month. So the children that are 3 get that book. Now, when they started preschool, and this was in February 2022, the children came to preschool, and that month they'd all got the book about a big brown bear who, it's a great book. He does all these different things. And those children came to preschool, and it didn't matter what part of Tamworth they came from. They all had this same connection. And that first week, they're all coming to preschool, retelling this story about a big brown bear. They're playing in the playground together and in reenacting the story. They're retelling the story to each other, and they're pretending to be the characters. They're connecting through those books, but also they were coming with those key emerging literacy skills. And we had early educators reach out to us saying they have had to adapt curriculums as these children have started in these preschools so much more ahead of previous years. Now, being a statistician, and you know, we've got a sample size here of 89, which is fantastic for a case study for Tamworth. But we wanted to see if those findings in Tamworth were unique or if it was indeed around the world. So we took our survey research from Tamworth, and in conjunction with the Dollywood Foundation, we surveyed families in the US, UK, Canada, Ireland, and right across Australia. We had 86,000 data points. And for the first time as a statistician, I have enough data. So statistically, what you're looking at is very robust work. And we wanted to see, we built our own comparison group in the data set that we had, because obviously it's incredibly huge. And we compared data from those who got the books for over a 12-month period to those who didn't get the books, who were starting at the similar age. So we compared data for those who were 12 to 60 months that had got 12 months of books, and then those who entered and hadn't received any books yet, but did go on to. What we found across all of Australia was that children were more than twice as likely to demonstrate those key emerging literacy skills: receptive vocabulary, expressive vocabulary, and their phonological awareness. That includes things like rhyming. And if they could, you know, if the caregiver said to the child, "Oh, can you name another word that starts with B, like bed?" and the child might say bat or ball. So these findings from Tamworth were generalisable. We were finding it right across Australia, which was super encouraging for us. And I've been presenting quite a bit on these world findings. So if anyone wants further information on that, I'm more than happy to provide, and that's part 3 of the PhD. So where to now? The Dollywood United Way Australia and Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, we are partnering with multiple universities and organisations around the country. For example, we're working with Let's Read and Raising Literacy Australia. So Raising Literacy Australia have seen incredible work at Tamworth, and they've taken our research, and they're in Light Council now in South Australia, and they're trying to replicate a Tamworth model in a way that suits them. So they're doing everything that Raising Literacy Australia does, all their wraparound, and we are underpinning with the Imagination Library. So we're working with lots of different groups. We're working with Rosie's Reading in Tasmania. We've kicked off down there. And multiple universities as we delve into the research going forward. So very, very big thank you to Tamworth Regional Council and the Tamworth Library, Macquarie Uni and United Way. And famous quote from Dolly, you can never get enough books into the hands of enough children. How did I go for time, Bruce? Am I okay?
You've done extremely well, Claire. So I take it that is your closing remark.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kay, for coming in and helping.
And well, thank you very much from me and all of our participants, to you, Claire, and to Kay, for that really engaging account of the program in Tamworth. It's remarkable to have a 98% participation for a start. Is extraordinary, and I really appreciate the way you talk both about the collaboration amongst other kinds of partners, but just the wraparound. So whilst the focus was on the books, there are a whole range of other points of connection that were brought into that story. So that's a really wonderful way to start our story about literacy, but about capability and how people come together to engage in community. For our second case study today, I'm delighted to have our friends from Circular Head, UNESCO Learning City, with us today. And Kate Gray, our 2016 Community Coordinator at Circular Head Council, will introduce her colleagues and tell us the story. Start the story, perhaps I should say, Kay. Thank you very much indeed.
Can you hear us okay, Bruce?
Yes.
Right. No worries. Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone, from Palawa Country here in Circular Head, Tasmania. So really, it's a massive pleasure to be with you here today and to share our story of Circular Head, a place where learning is lived, shared and grown together. Circular Head is located on the far northwest coast of Tasmania. I think there's a little map somewhere. No, there's not. I've got every other possible banner. Anyway, on the far northwest tip of Tasmania, our region covers just over 4,900 square kilometres of beautiful sweeping coastline, rich farmlands, and we have a strong cultural identity. But more than that, we're a community with heart, with resilience, and a shared belief in the power of learning. We're a pretty small but vibrant population of just over 8,000 people. Our largest urban centre is here in Smithton, and that's home to about 40% of our residents. Stanley is our next largest town, followed by Forest, Irish Town, Rocky Cape and Marrawar, each place bringing its own history, its own people and its own stories. One of the stronger aspects of our identity is our Aboriginal community, with around 17% of Circular Head residents identifying as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. This connection to country, to story and tradition enriches our collective learning journey. Our main industries here are dairy and beef cattle farming, meat processing, supermarkets and primary education. Circular Head is a place where people work hard, we look after each other and we do what needs to be done, often without recognition. But what has become really clear is that we're also a region who are deeply committed to learning across every stage of life. That truth really came to light when Anne, the Literacy Service Coordinator of Smithton Library at the time, attended a conference in Victoria. Anne heard Melton City Council talk about becoming a UNESCO Learning City, something we hadn't heard of before, and she had a real light bulb moment. She realised that we were already doing so much of the things that they were talking about there in Melton, right here in Circular Head. We just didn't have the language for that yet. So in 2018, Circular Head Education Training Consultative Committee, on behalf of Circular Head Council, began the application process to become a member of the global network of learning cities. By April 2019, it was official. We had become one of only 4 Australian UNESCO learning cities. For us, this status isn't just symbolic. It gives us access to frameworks, global examples, and partnerships that help strengthen what we already do and to do it better. One of the cornerstone initiatives we're proud of is our 2610 Learning for Life Literacy Project, which was funded in late 2023 by the Tasmanian Government. This was through the state's 2610 strategy, which is about ensuring that every adult has the reading, writing, numeracy, and communication skills they need for work and for life. For us in Circular Head, this means creating a community where no one falls through the cracks, where learning is possible at any stage and any age. As part of this project, I was employed as the 2610 Community Coordinator. My role is to connect, collaborate and coordinate adult literacy support across the region. This includes promoting services and raising awareness, encouraging the recruitment of local literacy volunteers, organising plain English workshops for business and community groups, hosting literacy awareness events, removing barriers to learning and communication, and that's done one person at a time, and from a community-led, responsive and personal approach. We're all about the personal approach here in Circular Head. Our recently launched Learn for Life Literacy Action Plan makes it clear. Circular Head is a place where anyone who wants to learn can. Whether you're learning to read with your kids, upskilling at work, navigating the digital world, or learning English as a new language, there's a place for you here. The plan is built on simple but powerful ideas. We're never too young or too old to learn. Learning should be fun, flexible, and useful. Support is available, and it's okay to ask for help. Plain English helps everyone. And learning belongs in every part of life, not just in the classroom. We know that early learning sets the foundation for life. In Circular Head, many powerful initiatives are supporting children and their families from birth. Today, you'll hear from some of those that really bring this to life. Our local champions who are putting books into the hands of families and planting the seeds of a lifelong love of reading. So now I'd like to briefly introduce you to some of these wonderful people who you'll be hearing from shortly. First, Emma, who is the coordinator of Hippie Smithton, a home-based early learning and parenting program that supports families with young children through books, activities and mentoring. Emma brings deep insight into how we can empower parents as their child's first teacher. Next, Glenn McLaren, who is president of Rotary Smithton. Glenn and the team at Rotary have led a project that delivers free books to children just before they begin kindergarten. A powerful gesture that not only supports early literacy, but also sends a message that our whole community cares about your learning. And finally, from Soroptimist International Circular Head, we're joined by Pat Joyce and Hannah Bruce, who lead a beautiful initiative delivering books to babies. Their work ensures that even the very youngest members of our community grow up surrounded by stories and language right from the very beginning. Each of these initiatives reflects the heart of what we're about in Circular Head: connection, community, and creating learning-rich homes. Before I go, let me finish with a story, one that still brings a smile to many faces in our community. It was late 2014, and a council worker here discovered a very mysterious, very large egg in Circular Head. It was taken on the back of a trailer, because it was that big, to a local vet who identified this egg as a reading bug egg, and the only way to hatch it was by reading to it. Over the following months, this egg visited schools, libraries, workplaces, events and homes across our region. The community read nearly 3,000 books to the egg before it finally hatched in a very special celebration in August 2015. Now, this all sounds very whimsical, and it was, but it was also powerful. It engaged every corner of our community, reminding us that stories connect us and that reading is something to be celebrated and to be shared. The Reading Bug Egg was a partnership between Rural Health Tasmania, Smithton Hippie, Emma was involved, I think, Circular Head Council, and many local groups. And it's a really perfect example of how our community comes together to embrace creativity and connection to forge our learning journey. So when we talk about where stories grow, I think of Circular Head, where stories grow in our lounge rooms and learning centres, on farms and factory floors, in our library and our clubs, and the voices of elders and the dreams of children. Reading and learning don't belong to schools alone. They belong to all of us in every home, every workplace, and every moment of curiosity. It is now my absolute privilege to welcome Emma to talk to us about the Hippie program here in Smithton.
And welcome to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. So I'm Emma. I'm from the Hippie program in Smithton. And just so you know what Hippie is, it's a home interaction program for parents and youngsters. It's actually a free government funded program funded by the Department of Social Services, and Brotherhood of St Lawrence hold the licence for Australia. So I've been involved with this program, I think we worked out about 14 years now. Starting it with my own children and working through as a tutor and then through to being a coordinator of the program. And like Kate said, our aim is to empower parents. They are the first and the most influential teachers of their children, and we want to, empower them to realise what kind of magic that they have in developing a love of learning early that sustains for a whole lifetime. A little bit of an overview of how Hippie works is we actually have activity packs that we deliver in-home to the families, so we go to visit them. And the way that we deliver these is what we call role play or practice. So each book gets practice with the family, and that includes the storybooks. So each storybook is read to every single family. And then there's also multiple languages available and video assistance as well. And all these resources get left with the families as well. So once we leave, they have the activity packs and the stories to do with their children over a week or a fortnight. We come back with a new one and we support them in any ways that they've identified they might need it. Hippie actually started a very long time ago. But for Australia, it started in 1989 with only 20 families as our very first go at it. And then from there, we went to 2003, where they started, this is great, we'll do some more sites, and Tasmania got involved. So we've been involved with the Hippie program since then. And as of 2005, we have 100 Hippie sites servicing thousands of families. So that just shows the amount of great data and great results that we got so quickly to prove that this program is helping families. So all materials are free for the families to keep. They end up with 18 storybooks over the 2-year period and 45 activity packs. Over the many years that Hippie's been running, we've done lots of longitudinal studies. Our latest one actually states that 50% of parents will actually read more to their child by the end of the program. So from going from 1 to 5 days a week up to 5 to 7 days a week, there's a 50% increase. They're also 3 times more likely to do literacy and numeracy with their child as they begin school. And although we don't sort of follow after the school age group, personally and through our community, we know that it just has some amazing knock-on effects for their attitude towards learning into the future. So And I guess the other part of this is to sort of give you a real life example. We're talking the other day with a family that's actually came back to Hippie after a big long break. So Hippie's been going so long in our community that it's now generational. So they've done it with their child, and their child is now old enough to have children in the program as well. And they reflected with us that they have some of the original Hippie books. And as parents, we might acknowledge that, you know, as your kids get older, you cull things down and toys will change and books will rotate and grow with your children. But to know that these books have survived and been valued and kept within the homes for generations is an amazing sort of promotion to our program and the value that the parents get from just having those resources in a supported learning environment. To be supported in learning the skills that come along with teaching our own children. And another quick little percentages, because we know we like statistics. Over 50% of our current families have commented specifically that the new books become quick and easy favourites, and they are regular nighttime page turners. So it's great for our program to be getting all this feedback, and to be connected to community is what we love.
Excellent work, Emma. Thank you so much. And now I'll let him finish his water.
Right.
Love to introduce you to Glenn.
Yep.
Glenn is from our local Rotary Club here and would love to share about their initiative.
Well, welcome, Glenn. Can I just point out altogether you've got 7 minutes left?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
that's
dear.
fine. Well, the Smithton Rotary Club run a program to encourage the love of reading to all pre-kinder students. We do this by presenting each student with a hard copy book, which is theirs to take home and keep. The pre-kinder book program started 10 years ago, following from a Rotary Leadership Forum, where Rotary's top priorities was supporting basic education and literacy, and that's which was discussed. So on the journey home, three of us had a 3-hour drive home and was trying to think up something we could do for our community, and this formulated to reach out to a local school to try to give the book to all the pre-kinder kids. Through an informal partnership with the primary schools in Circular Head, we're able to, alongside with the teachers, and to ensure the books we purchase or engage the children through imagination, listening skills and comprehension, and enhance the language developments and examples with rhymes and rhythms. So, and we have our Rotary members, volunteers, their time and go to pre-kinder and read the reading session with the kids and deliver the books. Each book's got the child's name in it and is presented to the child to take home to share with their families. And this is very good. I remember the first time that I've only been in Rotary 3 years, but the first time I went and did a reading session with the Smithton Primary School, I was very nervous because myself growing up, I had struggled with literacy personally, and it wasn't until I actually started reading to my own child that it helped me along the way. So the first time I went in, I was very nervous, but I decided I'd read the book as I would read it to my own child. And that to me is where the book type you got has got to have, for the person read it, you use your imagination and bring the book to life, basically, and define the children. Once you finish and you put that book down, you want that child to pick that book up and read again. And so it was very precious to me, and to see the smile on the kids' faces when I firstly did that meant a lot. So to fund our project, each year the Rotary Club of Smithton run a book fair where second-hand books are resold, and we use the funds from that to purchase the books to go out to the pre-kinder kids. The program is really well received in the community and the schools, and come November the schools are reaching out to the Rotarians to ask when are we coming back to read to the children again. So it's a fantastic thing. Last year's book was Imagined by Alison Lester, and we gifted 106 books to all the pre-kinder students throughout Circular Head. Yeah, so I just on the Dolly part, and I can read. You know, I was that father that struggled with literacy and struggled with bringing the child up, but I decided I would read, and I did all the reading at night myself. And to see my child, Rebecca at the time, the youngest one, started reading to her when she was probably 6 months. Time she turned 2, she had 3 favourite books. One was a hide and seek book. The other 2 were bananas and pajamas books. And by the time we read those books every night for hours and ends, and in the end, my wife would come in, I'd be asleep, and she would reading back to me. So whether she actually memorised the books, but she had to read them, didn't matter, because she actually read them word for word. And in the end, like you said, you're following along with your finger, and then she associates that word with the word that's on the page. And that brought so much joy to me. So that's my story. And I think what Rotary does with these pre-kinder books is very special. So yeah, really good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Glenn. That's lovely. And now over to Pat from Optimus International Circular Head.
Hi, I'm the coordinator for the Books for Babies for Sir Optimist International Circular Head, and I am an ex-teacher, but I'm still very passionate about providing children with books. And we buy books for babies, and they go through the child health nurse now. Many years ago, in 1990, the club started doing it because there were teachers on in the club, and they recognised the importance of reading aloud to children from birth, because the 0 to 5 are very formative years for young children. And the members visited the mothers with the books while they were in hospital, but of course that doesn't happen anymore. And in 2020, we resumed this project through connections within the hospital system, and the child health nurse gives a book to the mums when they come in for checkups, and she rings and lets me know when she's run out of her supply of books. And we know about, you talked about the connection that's formed between the caregiver or the reader and the child, and the shared enjoyment of books. And this is important because the words in books are different from normal day conversations, so that they're getting a wider vocab and different experiences. I've stopped looking at my notes because people have said everything that I believe in anyway, but I wanted to tell the Albie story, and this goes back about 15 years. This is the book. My husband bought this book for the grandchildren and read it to them in his own unique way, so much so that he was the only one who was allowed to read it to them. The grandchildren would pull him up if he changed the words, and then they would join in where there was big print, like, is that the right way for me to show it, Kate?
Yep.
And they'd follow it with their finger and call out, Appy! And then they'd also, his answer was always, oh, flips. So the children would join in with their pop when he read it to them. And then you'd find them sometimes picking the book up and reading it to themselves. And my own children never believed that they couldn't read because they were read to, and I'd sit them down with a book and they would read. Just a little bit about where we get our books from. We've had pop-up bookshops to raise money for books, raffles and other fundraising activities, but we purchase them from places like the post office. That's a great place. Kmart, newsagents, anywhere we can get them. This is the type of books we've been picking up, and this one's a sensory one, which is really good because they can feel it, and they can feel what fuzzy is and hear the fuzzy word. So that's one of them. And Mem Fox. I love Mem Fox books. 10 Little Fingers and 10 Little Toes. And her books bring in other elements to them as well. We also include some books that might be for older children, and the nurse gives them the option of taking one like this one to share with the whole family so that the books can be shared as a family. So there's a selection of those. And I remember I went to a launch of one of Mem Fox's books, Koalaloo, and she said the children who can recite 5 nursery rhymes when they start school are ready for reading. And also she read Koalaloo, and every time I read Koalaloo to children, I can hear her voice in my head. So I'm sure children often hear the person who read that book to them first, and they can hear it. So I'm very passionate about children and their reading and their learning, because I know it does make a difference if they've had all that reading at home.
Thank you very much. That might be a good point for me to interrupt and say it's time now for us to move on to hear some of the questions that might be there for both our stories today from Claire and from the crew at Circular Head. Thank you so much for those for that team effort in sharing your stories about the experience in Circular Head. I think that certainly sets a wonderful foundation for this next part of our forum when we're looking to explore some questions. The things that I really love hearing about are some of that intergenerational connection. We know from many cultures across the world about the power of the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren, and I think you've just shared with us again that this matters enormously for us as much as it does for other communities. I'm really interested myself in the way that in both Queensland and in Tasmania, these aren't programs which wait for families to come to you. You're getting to families very early on and making sure that the books are in their hands. Why is that an important thing to be doing, do you think? I wonder, Claire and perhaps Kay, if you'd like to talk a little bit about that first.
I think what we've found in our research is that for many communities out in Tamworth, there are no buses to get them to the library to get books, or they don't have the money to get to the books. And there's other programs that require, other book gifting programs that might require you to go to a medical appointment to get the book. I think what we're finding with the Imagination Library, it just crosses those geographic boundaries. The books turn up no matter where you live. You don't need that bus fare. You don't need to rely on anything to get to it. I think that getting that book into that child's hand, those touch points is absolutely vital. And I think that's what one of the strengths of the Imagination Library is. Kay, what do you think? Not sure if Kay's still on, sorry.
I am still here.
Excellent, thank you. Great.
Yes, definitely, and also it's sort of it's quite independent. You're receiving that in the mailbox. Somebody isn't handing it to you. It doesn't feel like charity, and I think people, and also that people are moving around and moving from house to house. We're able to redirect their books to them. When people do move, they're in here like a shot to have their address changed. So it just means so much to them. And I think that's sort of a ritual to go out to the mailbox and actually open the mailbox and get the book. So yeah, for the child. So yeah, absolutely beautiful thing.
I think, thank you. Circular Head crew.
Sorry, the postman in Tamworth or post person is very famous that week. Very well known for the kids as they run out. And we've got footage from families in there who, newborn baby getting the book right through to when the child's on their scooter going down to get the book as they go down each month to get there. So I think it's a journey that children go on getting that book delivered to them.
Sounds terrific. What about Circular Head? What's your thinking there?
You're right.
And I think it's great because children love to go out to the mailbox to get a book, and it makes it more special to them, I think, that it's been coming to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think children do like a book of their own,
Yes, they do.
you know. And even the importance of, I know we present a hardcover book, but it seems a little bit more special, especially when you get to that pre-kinder age group. It's more of a special book that's they got to look after it more, and they can grab it and use it more. So.
And Em, did you want to say something?
No, just that, yeah, just taking away that barrier of access is a huge step in, facilitating, because a lot of people want to do better. Like, we believe that everybody wants the best for their child, and it's often just a barrier, a conversation. And yeah, as soon as we can address those barriers, there's a lot of willingness for learning out there.
Thank you. I mean, just before we open up to others, can I just say, Claire, I was impressed by the data that you've been able to collect and the power of that data in itself to tell a story. But what we're seeing, it seems to me, from both parts of Australia, is accounts of how there is a very concrete, practical benefit from the early access to books and to reading, but it's the relationship around books that seems to matter as much as the actual skill of reading itself. Do you have any particular comments on that?
Yeah, look, oh, sorry, go Circular Head, you go.
I think for me, in talking to each of the lovely presenters here today, prior to this, I really got that strong sense of that shone through, not more importantly than the skill of being able to read, but that was the anchor that really allowed children to develop those skills, like that sense of connection to their father, to their grandfather, to their mum, their dad, their auntie, whoever it was, reading to them, like the safety and connection that they felt seemed to open them much more to then seeking out reading and developing those skills in themselves. And I found that quite fascinating, that I talked to them 3 different conversations, but they each seemed to allude to that themselves.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
Many stories from the people that they've met during their program time too.
Thank you.
I think
Claire,
for us, yeah, look, we've had some fantastic feedback, like, yeah, incredible data. The mission of the Imagination Library is that children get a love of books and reading. Not that they go to school ready to read, that they're prepared to read, but the point being that they just love books. And we're seeing that the caregivers unanimously, the #1 benefit that they reported for participation in the program is that the kids just love books. That's just what they do. They read this as part of everything they do. Tamworth has got book sheds and everything now, so much that books have just become that way of life. But also we found caregivers' confidence to read. So 85% of caregivers were coming back to us saying they felt more confident in themselves to actually read to the child. And that was both mothers and fathers, but also they felt more connected to the child because it was something they could do. And that wasn't just dads saying that. That was mothers as well saying, we had stories. There was one family where the mother was really struggling with her child as a newborn. She really struggled. And this went on for around 6 months. And the book, Koala Lou, turned up, which I was really pleased to hear you talk earlier about. And she remembered her mum reading that book to her. And she came in, her partner had a child, and said, can I read that book? And that was the moment for her where she could do it. And that story just resonates with so many people that she had that childhood memory income, that's what she was going to do. And that family beautifully gone on to have another child and are doing so well, and such great ambassadors for their shared book reading and getting books to kids. And it's that generations, isn't it, that we go across. Interesting, Bruce, you'll find one of my worldwide research, which, like we said, is the biggest in the world. And if anybody's out there who wants to help me, please, I'm begging for help for further research. I'm not doing any more PhDs. The #1 thing that we found was the strongest predictor. It doesn't matter what country they come from. It doesn't matter their ethnicity. It doesn't matter the caregiver's education. It was if that caregiver was read to as a child, they're more likely to read. So it's breaking that cycle. If they weren't read to as a child, we need to be getting into those homes, getting those books to those people. helping them in the library, running that fantastic way, model reading the book, occupy the kids, help the caregiver read, those sorts of things to get into those homes. I think to give those parents that confidence that they can pick up and read a book. Doesn't matter, just read however you can. I love the story from the gentleman in Tasmania. So beautifully said, read it however you can. Sorry, that was a long answer. I'm passionate about it. Stop talking. Sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. Leonie, did I see your hand go up? Can you and Sharon help with some of the questions that are in chat, please?
Yes, we've got a question here from Manda. You can speak, Manda, if you would like to read your question, or would you prefer me to do it? Anyway, here's the question. Would love to know tips from Kay about signing up donors and businesses, as well as whether it is an independent library or state, as our state library are not keen to be involved. So,
Right,
Kay, for you.
So we're a regional library and we're funded by the local government area, each local government area, and also partially funded by the state, but we are separate entities. And the funding, look, council is very involved in helping with the funding. So even during Country Music Week, there's a concert where they go around with buckets and people put money into the buckets. There's all sorts of, I guess, creative ways of doing this, from the very traditional sort of sausage sizzle at Bunnings to that sort of different way of doing it. And look, I don't know that our fundraising has we've actually reached our targets, but we're certainly building it from year to year. We're getting more support, and the program's becoming more well known. As far as and the donations go directly to United Way, and they are tax deductible. So around that end of the financial year is a good time to be reaching out to business. And also we have large industries like food processing industries that bring in a lot of migrants, and so those people benefit enormously too from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and so it's a great cause for those businesses. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I'm with the Nambour Community Centre here in Nambour in the Sunshine Coast. We didn't have any Dolly Parton Imagination Libraries set up here or north or south of us, except going back to Brisbane. So I set it up through the Nambour Community Centre, and we signed up 50 kids in 3 weeks. We got an initial grant from from local council, and then Nambour Community Centre footed the rest of the bill to be able to fund the program for 2 years. That's all the funding we have currently. So now we're at a point where we'd really love to expand, but I have run up to, I guess, not as much enthusiasm as Circular Head has in the local community, or with local council, or even the libraries, which I approached very early on, and they were not keen to be involved at all. Their opinion was that they've done everything there is to do for early literacy, full stop. So all of that bits of feedback is really helpful, and I guess it's nice to be in a room of enthusiastic people, but how to instill that sort of enthusiasm and like support from other groups is great.
Amanda, can I just say that it could be time to go back and visit your council, because I can think that 5 years ago when we first started this, there was a little bit of fear out there in libraries that this would reduce their impact and that their borrowings would go down. And we basically proved that the opposite has happened.
Yeah.
We're lending more books and we're more engaged. And so it's known now, so it could be time to revisit.
Yeah, are those statistics, because I know you guys talked about that, going to the libraries and handing out that library card, are they part of the study, Claire, or that would help maybe if there were statistics that show that?
Yeah, I've got some library statistics, which, yeah, please reach out to Kay. We've got statistics that could help you with that. But I'm also happy, like I've just got back from Armidale, where I'm presenting. I go around and present to different councils, different areas, and we take what we call the Tamworth effect. I can give you a link to our webinar, and I guess sometimes hearing it from the statistician or hearing it from the people who conducted the research can help in that situation to just show councils and philanthropic people, this is the evidence, this is statistically robust, what we've shown you, this works. So happy to help. Please reach out.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. Great resource to have. Thank you, Claire. Leonie, what other questions, please?
There's one here for Claire. How are you sharing these findings with other communities to encourage replication and adaptation? I think you might have just answered that, but if you just go over it a bit slowly so that we can, and any other examples.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, the thesis was published yesterday, believe it or not, after 1,036 days of doing the PhD. So that's now sitting with Dollywood. We hope to have that out within the next week or so. And so that will have absolutely all of our research, but also the research that we did in Tamworth is a peer-reviewed paper. We include the survey in that. Or everything that we've done is all completely transparent. That's something that Dolly Parton was absolutely adamant that what we have, we share to help grow and partner and help every other program that we can in the way to get books into the hands of children. And like I said before, various speaking engagements. So I've just got back from the launch of Rosie's Reading in Launceston. We're speaking about the research to a room full of ministers for education and Rotary and different people, promoting the research. So my slides are now freely available. I've got the slides that I presented at the World Literacy Summit. I'm more than happy to share with you. You can present those, you can come back to me and I can take you through them. I just had a group from Canberra who wanted to understand it further and present it to their people, and I just spend a few hours with them and help them. So I'm really passionate to translate this research. And we are working, we've got a parliamentary event coming up. We'll be developing infographics and everything to go along to translate the research so it's easier for practice. But please reach out. I have plenty of opportunity to share, and if you want to replicate our research, like I said, we've got the world's largest data set that you can compare your data to. So more than happy to share that as well, to share those surveys.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Other questions?
Well, I think for the Circular Head team, I love listening to your stories, and you've got multiple organisations working on literacy initiatives. Do you plan to increase collaboration and coordination between your various groups in the future, and what will be the opportunities and the challenges of doing that?
Does anyone want to speak to that?
We haven't really it hasn't come up with discussions yet between the clubs, but it's probably something we could definitely look into. Yeah.
I rather like the Dolly Parton
Yeah,
program, especially for children that are further out from town too.
Yeah.
I think like the process of preparing for today and realising just the depth that we have here, like this is just 3 examples of what we have in our community, has really spoken to like the love in our community for early learning and the understanding of how important it is. And so it's produced opportunity for us now to come together to talk in more depth around what those opportunities might look like and what we might do as a collaboration. Because I think our community, out of many that I've worked in and been aware of, do collaboration very, very well. We achieve some remarkable things for such a small population and a vast area. So I can't give you a precise answer, but I think it's whet our appetite to do more together, to explore, similar to what Tamworth has done for us. So keep posted, see what happens in Circular Head.
Yeah.
I think that you are a UNESCO learning city, and collaboration is the thing, and it's much easier, it seems to me, in populations of your size, because you probably talk to one another down the street, and you can collaborate that way. Because I know I've been to smaller communities, and that's a great way of collaborating. And I think I see Sharon has another question here. Are you sharing your findings with other communities like your neighbouring shires and councils to encourage replication and adaptation?
For us, no, we haven't, because again, this is something where we haven't had language put to like the beauty and magic of what happens here. And I think we just organically get in and do things because people recognise there's a need and they're willing to put themselves out there and raise the money and bring people together to do things. And so I think, again, this is highlighted for us that we do some special things here, and it is really useful to share that with others. So who knows, we might be on a tour, guys.
Yeah.
Can I just speak to that?
Yeah.
So there are a couple of other Seroptimus groups within Tasmania that do the books for babies, similar to us, but probably work closer with their local maternity hospitals rather than the health nurses. So while our program and how we run it here in Smithton is similar to a couple of the other Seroptimus groups, they do outwork it differently to us.
They do have difficulties because they are leaving it to midwives and nurses to give books to the mums when they've had their babies, and some of them don't stay there very long, so they don't all receive books. And they thought once we started with a child health nurse, they're thinking about doing something similar there because you can get to them more easily that way.
Yep.
I think in terms of that, Emma is a part of a very broad network in relation to HIPPY, as she alluded to previously. How many sites are there around Australia, Em?
We're 100 sites now,
Right.
so all across Australia. Yeah,
fantastic.
with beautiful networks. Yeah,
and
we've grown so fast in the last, I think it's between the last five years or a bit more. We've actually gone from 50 to 100, so we essentially doubled.
Right.
To include our Aboriginal communities and to have that focus in a few sites as well. So
terrific. Freya, great to see you with us. You've obviously got company, but you have a question as well.
I do. Hi, everyone. This is for the Circular Head team. Curious to know like how you use sort of being part of the UNESCO Learning Cities Network to support your Learn for Life action program and how it was helpful.
That's a really good question. And I think it probably contributed to it prior to us even realise like going for the status with UNESCO. So the people that wrote the application for the funding for the Learn for Life program actually wrote the application to UNESCO to become a part of the Learning City Network. And so it was, I guess, it kind of happened alongside each other that they were becoming aware of how many things we actually do when they started really drilling down to all the opportunities and the ways that we engage in learning across the lifespan here and all of the great things that we do to really look at how we work together in that way. And so I guess they used part of that same knowledge base to apply for both along a very similar timeline. We were unsuccessful in originally obtaining the funding through the 2610 Communities program. And so it wasn't till later that they reapplied and probably had a better understanding of what it was like to be a UNESCO Learning City. And so I guess in that way, it probably contributed to us. I wasn't involved in that process, but I'm imagining it contributed in them thinking, yes, we're ready as an area to receive this funding to be able to work within community to focus on adult literacy and work within the community to address some of the shortfalls there. Does that answer your question, Freya?
Can I just respond to Freya's question as well? I think the framework from UNESCO is good for any community to look at, whether you're a UNESCO learning city or not. For example, Tamworth, in its membership with us, learns from us and we learn from them, and they've got a cultural plan where they've put lifelong learning embedded in the cultural plan. So you can actually look at some of the frameworks in your own communities and start saying, doing asset mapping of your of what assets you've got in this area, both the formal and non-formals, and it's amazing for people to do that and then to suddenly realise how much assets they do have. And we've got, I see Danielle online from Brimbank City Council. They're not a UNESCO learning city either, but they have a fabulous learning strategy which is for all ages and follows the UNESCO framework. So you can learn a lot just by thinking about the principles and applying them in your own community.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Leonie.
Other questions or comments? We're starting to run out of time, but I think we've got opportunity for at least one more. Sharon or Leonie, anything in the chat?
Yes, Bruce, thank you. I've just popped something in the chat. And it's to Circular Head, but also interested from Tamworth as well, in terms of what kinds of data, and formal and also informal. You know, I'm certainly an advocate for informal data, anecdotal, what you hear is help you understand which families are not being reached, and any ideas how we can, you know, how you can address this. So it's always, I find, hard for anything we're doing. How do you reach those that maybe don't want to be reached, or are more difficult?
Emma, not to want to put you on the spot, but I think
I was about to say, this is kind of what I have to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of our data, actually, we go back to census data quite often and look at, say, birth rates and different bits and pieces of that kind of data to marry up with, you know, our population growth. We talk to schools, so that the school talk is more informally, so they kind of know, because we're a small town, about who's having babies and who should be about the right age. And it's a lot of who you know. So connections more informally will help us sort of figure out where the need is in the community. And then partners like Kate and other people that service different activities and programs throughout the community become my biggest assets for finding people. And again, it's sort of just having those one-to-one conversations sometimes for those difficult, really hard to reach people. Once they have a face and have what I say is 3 points of contact. So they hear your name somewhere, they might see you on Facebook, and then all of a sudden someone goes, oh, hey, this hippie lady wants to have a chat. By that third point of contact, you're less scary. And you're sort of more able to step through the door with talking face to face with people. But yeah, it can be quite challenging to, you know, look at the data and go, but there's this big pile of people here. I can only find this many. But it's, yeah, just sort of hitting the ground running. You really have to know your community well and your community partners. And I think it's people run these programs, people and their passion. So you can tell when somebody loves a program, and if they love the program, you're more likely to engage with it yourself. So.
So in Tamworth,
sorry, yes, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
So in Tamworth, we have, because there's this big uptake of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, all of those babies are members. So we can actually see the activity on our database as to who's borrowing and who isn't. We can see where there's concentrations of young people and where they live, babies. And so we take outreach programs to communities that might be more vulnerable, and we don't just do these programs in libraries, we do them in parks and at playgroups and things like that. And of course, the other thing is that because the children of the same age are doing this, some of the parents are just crazy about the program, and so they transfer that enthusiasm in their social groups. So we find that we don't have to do so much of that work. It tends to happen organically from people talking to each other.
Thank you. Look, I'm conscious of the time and of my role in keeping us to time, so perhaps we'll draw a line there. But can I thank you all so much for the various contributions that have been made, including those people who've joined us to listen and to perhaps reflect on the various observations in the light of your own experience and your own immediate context. All of that matters. Just a few thoughts to leave with you from my side. Four points that I'd like to make. The first is it's quite clear, I think, from the stories we've heard and the research that Claire has shared, books matter. The tangible fact of having a book in your hand gives something for people to focus on and gives that kind of sense right from the outset of life that there's learning to be done. There are opportunities to get from having this artifact in our hands. And I'm really impressed at the power of that's come through the stories that you've all shared. But the second point is equally important, and that is that books are not the thing by themselves. It's books in context, books in the context of family, books in the context of relationship, books in the context of cross-generational interaction, and indeed books in the context of community. So I think that those two things, the power of the artifact in itself, but also the relationships that sit around that artifact, is clearly integral to early learning. And let's remember, that's really what we're talking about. It's not about the books or the relationships themselves. It's that learning, it's that growth, it's that development of capability for babies, for parents, for communities that matters. But a third thing I'd like to underscore, and I think several of you have referred to this, both in the questions as well as in our introductory comments, is the fact that this is not single organisations working, but this is partnerships at work. Partnerships of different kinds in community. And yes, local government plays a key role, but it's not sufficient. Local government can't deliver this without the contributions of the other kinds of partners that we've heard. But let's not think that partnerships are an easy thing. Coming together with different kinds of agendas, different interests, different resources, sometimes different languages, can make it very difficult sometimes for people to really cooperate, to keep focused on the real purpose of why you're coming together, but then also developing the skills and the social infrastructure that allows partnerships to really deliver. And I'm so grateful to both our colleagues from Tamworth and from Circular Head for sharing the outcomes of your partnerships. And if you persist with partnerships and working through that phase of trying to develop them, then you can see what the benefits of partnerships can be. And maybe, Manda, that is really helpful advice for you to think about going back again. First time perhaps was not as the result you wanted, but it takes time. It's not an easy process building those kinds of partnerships. And my fourth point is just to thank Leonie again for her mentioning of the UNESCO framework. We're not doing this alone. We're doing this in the context of a global network and a global community. And what the UNESCO framework represents is a culmination of the learning of a lot of people in a lot of different communities around the world. And the value of that learning for all of us is not necessarily to take it as gospel, but as that opportunity for reflection, that opportunity to take your own context, your own circumstances, to think through what it is you're trying to achieve and see how that cumulative learning that the framework represents can be useful to you in thinking about the next steps that you might want to take in your own community, in your own partnership. So 4 things from me: the books themselves, the relationships that sit around those books, the power of partnerships, but it's not easy. And finally, there are frameworks that represent that cumulative knowledge that we can all draw on to help go further. Thanks so much again to Sharon and Leonie for your work in supporting the whole network, but particularly in organising the network. Thanks so much to Claire and Kay. Thanks so much to Kate and Emma and Glenn and Amber from Circular Head. Terrific contributions, but thanks also to all of you for the work that you continue to do, and we look forward to you joining the next ALCN event. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce, and we'd like to thank you for being our MC today. We really enjoy your thoughtful analysis of trying to put together all of the various things that come together in in 4 points. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you all next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.